Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, as we know, Chazal tell us that when Adar comes in, we are Marba B'Simcha. So what exactly does this mean? That's always the shayla that's been bothering me for many, many years. What does it mean, be Marba B'Simcha? In fact, Chazal tell us, Kishem Shenichnas Av, Mema'et B'Simcha, just like when Av comes in, we reduce the Simcha, so too Cain, Kishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha as well. And there's always a question exactly what this means. So I spoke to Rabbi Zul Orbach Shlita, and I asked him, what's pshat in this Chazal? What does this mean? That just like when Av comes in, we are Memayit B'Simcha, so too when Adar comes in, we are Marbe B'Simcha. Well, what's the parish? What exactly does this mean? So he explained to me as follows. He explained to me that when Av comes in, we know, when Chodesh Av comes in, it's already a dark time for Klal Yisrael, Churban Beis HaMikdash, the Olam HaMamish, worried and busy with the Churban that we don't have. Unfortunately, we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have the Karbonos, we don't have the Avodah. It's difficult. Av is a difficult month for Klal Yisrael. So when a person is Mamayit the Simcha in Av, it's only L'Shem Shemayim. It's purely L'Shem Shemayim. There is no other reason why a person becomes sad or becomes bitzar, upset and distressed, if not for a L'Shem Shemayim reason, which is what Av represents. So Rabbi Zul Orbach to me like this. Just like when Av comes in, we are Mamayit the Simcha L'Shem Shemayim, so too when Adar comes in, we should be Marbe the Simcha L'Shem Shemayim. That's how Rabbi Zul Orbach Shlita explained to me Pshat and Chazal of exactly what this means. So I think we have to understand that Enochanami, Adar is here, it's a beautiful Chodesh, it's a beautiful month. We know that Chazal tell us, Mishabur brings it L'Halacha L'Maisa at the beginning of Hilchos Purim, that a person that has a din with the goy should be dafka in Adar. It's a chashav, a geshmaka, joyous, simcha month, which Be'ez Hashem we should all be zoicha to have a gevaldige siyata d'shmaya, gevaldige simcha shel mitzvah, simcha shel avas haTorah, yiras shamayim, and everything else that comes together with that, b'siyata d'shmaya. Now, what I want to do is I want to go through the Seder HaDvarim of Inyonei Purim, starting obviously from the earliest, which is this Shabbos, which is Parashat Zohar, to go through some of the Inyonim, and what we're going to try to do is go Keseda, which means we're going to go according to the order of how things work generally, give or take a couple of things, and we're going to try to work our way all the way until Motzah Purim, especially this year. We have to discuss all the different shilas that are negay to this particular year. Every year has its shilas. This year has its string of shilas. But I want to go through some of the basic things, whether it's Parashat Zohar, Machazis HaShekel. We need to talk about obviously Tainus Esther. We need to talk about Kriyas HaMegillah, listening to the Megillah, all the halachas that go together with that. We need to talk about the actual halachas of Shlach Monos, Matanis Levyonim, the Suda, getting drunk, exactly how to do it, al pi halacha, some tips as well to make sure that you cope and manage for 3 whole days to figure this out, Be'ez Hashem. Also, it's also very, very important, what is the share of Shlach Monos, your favorite Rebbe? We will be discussing the Mahadran, Mina Mahadran types of packages that you'll have to be bringing in, Be'ez Hashem. We're going to go to that, how much money you have to spend on Matanis Levyonim, Maisa money, all of these sorts of shaylas, and obviously the Suda, what to drink, when to drink, and how to drink. Be'ez Hashem will be discussing that. There is a lot of shilas, including how much to bang on Homon. There's a lot of different things that we have to go to. B'siyata d'shmaya. We've got a few days. We've got to get to this. So bear with me as we try to get to halacha. So this week, B'siyata d'shmaya is going to be Parashat Zohar. Parashat Zohar is actually in Parashas B'Shalach. The Torah tells us as follows to Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rebbeinu Shem says, "Emcha zeicha Amalek." We have to erase the zeicha, the memory of Amalek. So Kriyas Parashas Zohar, as we know, is a mitzvah min haTorah. It's a da'oraisa. There's a shayla in the Rishonim exactly why. The Ramban says, what is the reason for the mitzvah? What is this business that we remember Amalek by, Zechira, by we do Parashas Amalek? What is the reason for the mitzvah? Says the Ramban, the reason for the mitzvah is not to forget what they did. In other words, we want to read it to us to remember that we're not going to forget. So if every year we make sure we do that, we're never going to forget what they did. The Rambam in Hilchos Malachim says a different mahalach than the Ramban. The Rambam says it's a mitzvah say to remember the bad maisim of Amalek and to ma'oreh, to reawaken everything that they did to us. So the Ramban learns the pshat is poshet, just not to forget. The Rambam learns the reason why we do it is poshet to be ma'oreh, to awaken within us the sinner, the hatred that we have for all the terrible things that they did for Klal Yisrael. So why do we only do it once a year? Maybe we should do it more often. Let's be ma'oreh once a month. We'll get up and we'll say, oh, Amalek, look what they did. What's pshat only once a year? So the Achronim say pshat is, Chazal tell us in the Gemara, Moed Katan, and other places, that a mace is forgotten after 12 months. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean mamash forgotten, right? A person goes through such a situation, he never forgets, but it means that the pain goes down a little bit, it diminishes. It's a tremendous chesed, by the way, that the Rebbeinu Shalom gives, is that when a person goes through a situation of a loved one dying, the Rebbeinu Shalom gives a tremendous chesed. After 12 months, it just gets a little bit easier. Forget, you'll never forget, but it gets easier. That's what we're saying over here. 12 months is the amount of time that a person starts to forget, things starts to diminish, and therefore that's the reason why you guys have to go over your Torah. Once a year you go over Kol Torah Kula to make sure that you don't forget what you learned. Now, Mr. Brewer brings in Simon Tov Reish Pei Hey that the halacha is that you need a Sefer Torah with a minyan of 10 adult men for the Kriya of Zeicha Amalek. The Leket Yosha brings his Heilige Rebbe, the Trumas Hadeshen, that brings down that you're meant to read Parashat Zochar from the Sefer Torah that is most meduyak. Right? Now we are zoichet to have one beautiful Sefer Torah. If we had two, then I guess we would choose the better one. So if anybody wants to, you never know, you can still chop it in. We'll make a Sefer Torah before Purim, right? Nobody mind. Before Shabbos, we'll make a Sefer Torah. We don't mind, right? If anybody wants to allow it to fill up this wonderful, beautiful Aron HaKodesh over here, we're happy to take donations. Anyway, so he says that the Trumas Hadeshen brings down, you're meant to take the most beautiful Sefer Torah in this case. And we'll talk about also the idea of if a person is a Ari guy, then he should go read from a Sefer Torah that's Ari. If a person is a Beis Yosef guy, he should read from a Sefer Torah that's a Beis Yosef guy. Right? Now again, we're going to have to see what that means Lamaisa when it comes to the Kriya, the Havara. We'll talk about that. Now, it's very important, Mishabura says to the Baal Korah, we're going to tell him and we're going to announce this as well, that the Baal Korah, we have a beautiful Baal Korah over here, he should mention right before the Kriya that he's being Moitzi everyone, he's Yotza everyone, right? Obviously you have to have Kavanah to be Yotza, and he's being Moitzi. You know, you do not need Q-tips, okay? One Kriya is enough. Yes, there are people that run around the whole day, but we're okay with one Kriya. We have a very medakdik Baal Korah, you're a Shamayim, he reads beautifully, so everyone don't worry about it. You're Yotza Mahadran, Mina Mahadran, when you listen over here. By the way, the Heilige Chassam Sofer, which is brought down in the Taz also, says that you're meant to have Kavanah during the Bracha, which is also something we're going to announce over here. There's the bracha of the aliyah. The Gabba has to listen to this. Very, very important. That the Chassam Sofer and the Taz say that you have to have, that everyone should have kavanah when the aliyah, the person that's having an aliyah, makes his buchi, right? That everyone should be yotza with his bracha in that case. The Stipler said, I never heard of anybody that does such a thing. But again, it's brought down. Okay, now next. Do you have to understand Parashat Zochar? Do you have to understand what they're reading? So, Lemaisa, since it's Lashon HaKodesh, you generally Lashon HaKodesh, the Gemara Megillah goes through the different shitas over here, but when something is in Lashon HaKodesh, you generally do not have to understand it, because Be'etzem Yoyetza, the Mishnah Berurah does say, and this is Kedai for everybody to look over, the Mishnah Berurah says that it's toiv for a person to understand what he is saying, right, to be Yotza all the shitas. So that means maybe it's shaykh for a person before Shabbos to open up an art scroll and just read simple understanding of the word. Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Reb Nissen Karelitz both held that it's enough to understand the inyan. Meaning you don't understand every single word. I'll give you an example, right? Even Asher Korcha. Asher Korcha, Rashi brings 3 pirushim in the word Asher Korcha. What does that mean? So you don't have to understand, right, Rav Elyashiv Zatzal used to say, every single one of the pirushim. You have one pirush and you're okay. But the idea is you open up an art scroll, understand what he's saying. Again, the poskim says, as long as you understand what they are doing, I think everybody will now understand what they're doing. When you get up to say Parashat Zochar, you don't really have to understand that much because you know what we're trying to accomplish, and therefore you will be okay. Now, lechatchila, which havara should you be hearing? And this is very negay because everybody has different minhagim when it comes to these things. So lechatchila, what you're meant to do is you're meant to hear Zochar in the minig that you are. Meaning if you're Litvish, you're Litvish. If you're Hasidish, you're Hasidish. If you're Sfardi, you're Sfardi. However, Lemaisa, Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank in Moedei Kodesh, in Mikroi Kodesh, Simon Zayin, Reb Nissen Karel is passing this way, and Reb Moshe, that Lemaisa, you are Yotza, whenever Havara you listen to, you are Yotza. Which means, of course, Lechatchil, if you have the choice, by the way, everyone in Yeshiva obviously listen to Yeshiva, but I'm saying theoretically, one day, Mitzvah Shem, one day where you're going to have a choice of this tibul or that shul or whatever it may be, so Lechatchil, you go with the Havara that you can, but B'di Yevid, always Yotza. What's that?
Is it not like that for every week?
No, this is a deraisa. Yeah, this is a deraisa. We're more makbid over here than we are normally, right?
You're saying it's really the same thing every week. We're just more makbid.
We're more makbid. The Ben Ish Chai brings down, by the way. You know, people. You ever saw people when they have like a new pen? So what do you do when you have a new pen? I'm talking about. Okay, people have pens still nowadays, right? I know everyone uses phones, but people still have phones. No, not the S Pen from the phone that you put. That's what you mean? The one that you put over there. Not a regular, normal. normal pilot, whatever they're called. Which ones I like? When I go to Lakewood, I buy them. What are they called? The pilot ones, or with the ink? The very geschmack, by the way, for underlining. They're gewaltig. So when you get a new pen, what does everyone do? You want to test it out. So you write your name, or you sign something. Ben Ish Chai says, you know what you're meant to be doing? You're meant to be writing Amalek, and you erase it. It's a mitzvah. Women, are women chayiv in this halacha? So Lamaisa, the chinuch holds that they are potter. The Heilige Chassam Soif and the Marsham held that they are chayiv. Lamaisa, the minig is generally that they go to a kriya of Parashat Zohar. That's the minig, because and they get a mitzvah like every mitzvah say, Shezman, Kurami, look at the Kafachayim in Tofesh Pehesik Cotton Lamed, where he brings this down as well, and other Marmakomis as well. By the way, there's a major shaila. If you're allowed to take out a Sefer Torah specifically for women, now in a lot of shuls they do this. They make a Kriya L'Noshim of Parashat Zohar. So some places, the ones that are medaktek, you know what they'll do? They'll do it during Mincha. In other words, they've taken out the Sefer Torah by Mincha, and now at the same time they read Zohar in this way. The men maybe want to hear it for the 16th time, or maybe you've got some women out there that want to hear it, then it's okay. But to take out a Sefer Torah dafka for that is mamish not poshut. The mincha sits. What's that?
Even for men?
No, for women I'm talking about. For men it will be okay. For women, because why? There's a shaila if they're chayiv. If they're vada chayiv, then a you take it out. It's a tzibur. You have a tzibur of women that need it, it's okay. But if it's a shaila if they're even chayiv, it could be it's a problem.
Could you take it out for one person that didn't hear it, or has to be one million?
No, you could take it out for one man.
So
That's okay.
Himself could be
If he never heard it. If he never heard it. But generally the Balkar is going to hear it.
You have to have kavanah. If you don't have kavanah.
Okay. All these shticks, we say that we can get around shticks. The Menachas Yitzchak says we don't take it out for women, right? Some poskim are taka making in this case, and some people have a minute to be makel. Again, everyone should ask the local Orthodox rabbi whether or not they're makel or they're not makel. Now, if a choila, what if a person is a choila? So I don't want to go into all these shilas, right? Someone Kuflam and Heino Rechaim talks a lot about the shilas of taking out a Sefer Torah stam. Do we just take out Sefer Torah for people? We don't take out Sefer Torah stam. What's that? It's not so partial. We have to, just stam take out Sefer Torah and mechades. You don't do these things. So if you have a choila, for example, who's again, there's people in Corona, there's people in Bidud, there's people in quarantine, whatever it may be. Do you take out a Sefer Torah for these people? So in Maisa, the Mishabura Paskins Lamaisa in Kuflam and Hesikot and Memvov, that if you've got a choila who cannot make it to shul for whatever reason, he's in Bidud or whatever the situation with Pasha, he's sick, whatever it is. So you are allowed to bring a Sefer Torah for him without a problem whatsoever. There is no problem. Now, what happens if a person missed it? Now, I don't know how a person can miss Parashat Zohar. Like, what were you thinking? Lying in bed? No, Zichin weren't lying in bed. You were probably being Isaac and Kibbut of Aim and Bikon Cholim or whatever it may be. But to lie in bed, I'm not Choshish anybody. But let's say it could happen once a year. Maybe you miss something. All right, it happens. We're a human being. You miss Shachos once a year. No, say you missed it. What does he do in this situation? So the Magen Avraham famously says that the Maisa you could be Mekel and you could be Yotze with the Kriya that we do on Purim. On Purim we line Vayova Malik, and therefore this is a shaila when we do it, but we'll talk about that. And therefore you're Yotze with that case. Now the Mishnah Berurah is not happy with this. Mishnah Berurah does not like using this. In other words, your person should not say, "Oh, if I miss Zachar, say that. So I'll listen on Purim." Mishnah Berurah holds it's mamish not good. The Aruch HaShulchan also very cholik on this Magen Avraham, and therefore it's not kedai for a person to get involved in that shaila. Rabbi said, let's move on. Machasitz had shekel. The Indian of Machzah Shekel. So when the Beis Hamikdash, the Rambam tells us this very clearly in Hilchos Shkolim Perek Dalet. The Rambam goes through as follows. When the Beis Hamikdash was here, they collected the Shkolim. So every adult in Klal Yisrael was required to donate a half a shekel towards the purchase of the korbanos or other tzorchei tzibur. Now, the Mishnah in Shkolim in Perek Aleph brings down that starting from Rosh Chodesh Adar, all the shluchim would go out to collect the Shkolim, which would begin 2 weeks. Again, Rosh Chodesh Adar, they went out. The collection would begin 2 weeks later, which was on the 15th of Adar. From that day onwards until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, booths were set up for people to collect the actual shkolim. On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the shkolim were then brought into the Beis Hamikdash, into the place that they needed to be in, and the shkolim were divided into separate containers for the tzorchei tzibur and for the korbanos and whatever it may be. The Gemara in Megillah, Daf Yud Gimel, tells us that the reason why Klal Yisrael had to give the shkolim at this time was in order to give our shekel before the Haman gave his shekel. Now we know that the Megillah tells us that Haman bribed Achashverosh with a sum of money which the Megillah tells us is 10,000 kikar of silver. How much is that, by the way, nowadays? Anyone have exchange rate? Siri will tell you. What is the exchange rate of 10,000 kikar nowadays in 2021? Ask Siri. No, is that what you do for everything else? For this you can't figure it out. I had our friends in the base medrash. Gavaldik. So what can I tell you? I did the calculation one time. I didn't use Siri, but I used the calculation like this. This is you probably guys have the same calculation. 43.6 kilo is basically a kikar of kesef. 1 kilo is approximately $240. So 10,000 kikar is about $100 million. So we're talking about Haman walked into Achashverosh in the palace in Shushan, and he gives him $100 million. That was an incredible campaign, by the way. That's a campaign, Rabbi Say, right? $100 million. He comes in. You can imagine why, just to get rid of the Jews, and therefore we counteract that by us giving our shekalim before, which is why we generally give the shekel before the Megillah, specifically to give it before Haman. It's a representation. That's all it is. Now, first of all, what is this half a shekel, by the way? What is the half a shekel? So Rashi says, when a half a shekel was, it was worth a half a shekel. It was a specific coin that's worth half a shekel. In fact, the Ramban says when he came to Eretz Yisrael, so he was shown this coin, incredible. And he said in one side of it was a jug of the mon, and the other side was a flowing staff of Aaron, and it weighed 10 grams, whatever it was. The Akedas Yitzchak, tain is that the Machzor shekel was a shekel that they actually cut in half. They actually cut the shekel in half. That's what they gave her. Some people, the Yad Yitzchak wants to taina that it wasn't a specific coin, it was just the value of half a shekel. There's a famous Maisa with the Ksav Sofer. The famous Ksav Sofer, they had the coin like Rashi. He had this coin that was mamish passed down as a Yerusha, and he once brought it with Rabbonim, and then they passed it around, and they didn't find it, and the same famous Maisa, they found it in the pocket afterwards. Anyway, Bisman Hazeh, that we do not have a Beis HaMikdash, we still give a half a shekel, even though the Maisa is not going towards Korbanos or Tzorchet Tzibur, but at the end of the day, we still give half a shekel as a zeich, as we pass the Ramah Simon Tov Sadi Hey, and it's a very important thing. It's not a mikad, it's not a chi of meikadim, but it is definitely a minig that the Ramah brings down. What do we use? The Rishonim say the word truma in the parasha Machzor shekel is 3 times, and therefore we use 3 times a half. The Vilna Gaon Maiserav says only to give 1. Some actually say to give 4. An extra 1/4 stocker. Now the currency should be according to the place where you are. So in Schweiz, in Switzerland, you should give half a franc. In England, you give half a pound. In America, you give half a dollar. And in Eretz Yisrael, half a shekel in that case. By the way, Reb Chaim Kanievsky Shlita holds that it should be spendable in that place. So to give a half a franc in Eretz Yisrael, that's probably not going to be negay. But of course, it's a minig ba'alma, so of course, it yaitz to the minig, but a chatchila person should. What a person could do if he does not have a half is he can give 3 whole coins and only be zoicha for the half. Sometimes what they'll do is in the plate they'll put 3 halves sort of sellotape together, and you pick it up and you zoicha it and you say zeicha machzor shekel, not machzor shekel. Obviously, in that case over there. Okay, is the olam with me? Let's move on. Rabbi say one last couple of things. Now there is a minig already put down. The Be'alocha brings it that the Gabbai finds real machzor shekel and sticks it together, and people are koinu it, right? People, whatever it is. Again, it's zeicha machzor shekel, not machzor shekel itself. Who gives the machzor shekel? So according to the chinuch, it starts at the age of 20 years old, right? Because that's what the pasuk tells us. The Rambam says that this was the age of the first collection, but lemaisa there were many other collections as well from other people as well. The Vilna Gaon held it was the age of 13. But you can even give from higher than that. Now, the Mishnah in Shkolim tells us that women and children under 13 are pot of machzor shekel. That's the Mishnah in Perek Aleph Mishnah Base. The Al Shech HaKudish explains that women are potter. Why? Because they did not take part in the Egel Azov. And as I pass in the Ma'aseh the Rambam, the minig is, as I pass on the Yoshim the Levush, is that people do give for their wives and their little children as well over there. Not a problem to give half a gold coin. Last question, Rabbi said before we finish today. When do we give this machzor shekel? So according to the Ramah, we give it dafka before Purim in order to makdim our shekel before Haman gave his shekel in the Megillah. The Kaf HaChaim says people give it Rosh Chodesh Adar as well, or before Parashat Zochar. So state in Kaf HaChaim. It's probably not our minig, but I'm sure there are many Sfardim that have that minig. Tosfos in Megillah Chav Aleph the Levush says the ikar to give it is on Yom HaTainis, Tainis Esther. So it's mashma from the Ramah that you give it in Mincha on Erev Purim, which is Tainis Esther, and it's a dafka kapora for the Tainis as well. The minig Yerushalayim is generally to give it on Tainis Esther before Mincha, which is what we do over here as well. Obviously, if a person forgot, he can give it even after Purim. He can give it until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, as I paskin with Yashav Alocha Lamaisa. What do we do with it? You can give it to any stocker that you want. The Aruch HaShulchan says to give it to Berek HaBayis of the Beis HaKnesses. Hint, hint. And but of course, the Kaf HaChaim says the best thing is yeshivas. That's what he says because that's Torah. As I state the Kaf HaChaim. Okay, Rabbi say tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to continue in the Seder HaDvarim of what's going on over here. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.
Thank you.